Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to the episode of my F1 2020 My Team Career Mode, episode number 94 today for the Italian Grand Prix in Season 5. If you guys did miss the previous one, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. Obviously, last time, it was a bit of a tricky race, really. We kind of fell away with a bit of lack of race pace in the second half. We did manage, though, to finish ahead of our main championship rival and our teammate, Pierre Gasly. But, of course, Carlos Sainz finally got his first win of the entire season, the reigning world champ, and that brings him very close to Gasly now, firmly in that championship fight now. Obviously, Gasly did have a bit of a nice cushion going into Belgium, but now it's looking a lot closer with Leclerc also picking up, a podium that was in P2. Obviously, he led most of the race, so I was quite surprised at how quick Sainz was recovering from P11 to that P1, but fair enough. It was a really, really great drive for him, but Leclerc, second place, brings the championship even closer. But for us, we need to continue on, because even though we did beat Gasly, it was only by one position, and there's still so many points to try and claw back on him, and also Sainz and Leclerc. But we start off this episode ahead of the race weekend with an exciting development. We didn't have one last season, but this season we're going to have a regulation reset into the next one.
They've announced that the technical regulations are changing for next season. Now there's a risk a lot of our hard work could be undone if we're not careful, so let's figure out how to mitigate this. Drivers, take a look at the developments we have and let us know what you want to invest in protecting. Alright everyone, let's get on top of this.
So, exciting times, maybe nervy times as well, depending on how much is going to get reset. Let's have a look at this R&D tree, and it is going to be a whammy, a double whammy on performance, a triple if you consider and include the durability. But we've got the engine and the chassis side of the entire car being reset. So, I've been saving R&D points pretty much from the get-go, from when we maxed out this car in episode 4, I think it was, of this season. So, we've got a fair amount of R&D points. I've never done the math, so I'm not too sure how many I need to completely adapt everything, but we'll see. I'm gonna leave it a few races. You know, we've only got a couple obviously to the end of the season, but I'm gonna leave it to the last 2 episodes to really start buying these upgrades, to really plan out what we're gonna try and adapt and what would be best. But really, if you think about it, the other teams have more to lose. You know, the Mercedes powered cars, they have the most to lose, as Racing Point and Mercedes are the best on the engine these days. Obviously, when we chose Renault into Season 3, they were the best engine, but no longer the case. So we have maybe more to gain in this reset. On the chassis, though, we are the best, so we're going to have to make sure we adapt that as best we can. But exciting times ahead then for Season 6. That's already going to throw a span to the works before we even get to, you know, how close it could be anyway in Season 6. But now with the R&D reset, really could shake up the running order. We head into the race weekend then, and if that was a bump in the road in terms of knowing the R&D is going to get reset, we got another one as we started off Q1.
We seem to be having some software issues at the moment. Sit tight for a few minutes while we reboot some things, okay?
So starting off qualifying with a bit of a fault there, electrical system, not ideal, but it's going to keep us in the garage for 4 minutes. Obviously, probably the best session to have it at Q1. Plenty of time to go. A little bit overcast right now, but I don't believe there's any rain forecast for the entire weekend, thankfully, because this is one of those circuits that is a travesty when it rains, because you're running such low error anyway. So here we are then on our first flying lap in Q1. A little bit cold conditions out there, but we'll be getting sunnier as we go through into Q2 and Q3, but the car really on edge. We're running very low wings here, and so even with maxed out cars, it is quite fine on some of these higher speed corners. But getting a little bit of a tow from Sergio Perez, chucking it into Ascari, then on the curb, and a little bit too much on the curb. Oh no! Oh, and it's an absolute calamity. That is literally the opposite of what we needed. We got on the curb. I was about to say, how many times have we rode that curb like a skateboard and it's been fine? We've been good. We've even gained some time being that aggressive, but there, just a bit too much on the rear end. The car snapped way too quickly for me to even catch it in some kind of way, and very rarely, but the rear tire is the one that breaks. A lot of the time, even with full damage, simulation damage on the game, you're usually fine with hitting a wall of that angle most of the time, actually. So we've gotten very unlucky there. And that's it. There's nothing more to say. We're out of Q1, and we're going to be starting last in this race. In a race where we're, what, 30 points back or something like that away from the championship lead, our teammate. Another good 20 plus behind Sainz, Leclerc in P2 and 3. And now we're starting last place on this grid. The only saving grace is it is Italy, slipstream fest. We will be able to make overtakes, but we've seen before, once we're past the slower cars, because the top 5 teams, you know, ourselves, Red Bull, Ferrari, Merc, McLaren, race 6 teams, because they're all pretty much on top of one another in the R&D chart. They're all so close together. It's going to be very tough once we get past those slower cars, the other teams respective. So, let's go to Sunday. Oh boy, we've got it all to do. This is a very, very tough season.
We're back in Italy once again for another round of the Formula One World Championship. And what a great race is in store for us today here at the oldest circuit on the calendar. Monza hosted its first race all the way back in 1922. With top speeds up to 215 miles per hour and an average lap speed of around 155 miles per hour, Monza's reputation as one of the fastest circuits in the sport is well earned. We have 11 corners on this 3.6 mile track, with the best overtaking chance coming into the heavy braking zone of the Turn 1 chicane. Now, Anthony Davidson, I wonder, might we be in for some early pit stops today from the midfield teams, all trying to put some pressure on or disrupting things for the leaders up front?
If you're in the middle of the pack, you know, you got your own race to run, I don't think they're going to be thinking about causing trouble up front. However, closer to the head of the pack, don't be surprised to see some split strategies. If you're running second and third, for example, bringing one car in for an undercut while leaving the other one out there longer can put a lot of pressure on the leader and maybe force them into an error.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's race. Pierre Gasly lines up on pole position. A very happy Carlos Sainz will start second. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Stroll, Charles Leclerc and Norris, Albon, Ricciardo, Giovinazzi and Lewis Hamilton, Ocon, Perez, Valtteri Bottas and Kvyat, Matsushita, Latifi, George Russell and Nick de Vries, Aitken, Magnussen, Schumacher and the owner-driver rounds off the grid. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out. Then let's see who can prevail today.
We have got 5 races left this season, and I just look back, I'm actually on the dot, 30 points back from Pierre Gasly right now in the championship lead. Sainz a further 3 behind Gasly, and then I think it's another maybe 2 or 3 with Leclerc. So we're even a few 20 whatever behind Sainz and Leclerc, let alone the championship leader Gasly. And as you saw by the grid sequence, of course, typical, of course it had to happen. Gasly is on pole for this one. Sainz in second. Leclerc, I think, up in P5, so still pretty high up. And we know how consistent he's been. You know, he's here in the championship fight, and he's yet to win a race this entire season. So you know he's going to do well in this race. And with only 5 races to go, a 30-point gap, I actually genuinely don't think we can do this. Like, this is probably the furthest back I've ever been in a career mode championship with this little races to rectify it. Like, you know, usually we have a good, you know, there's 10 races left. Oh, it's calm. We can, you know, we can do this. We can, you know, get a few more positions ahead. But now in a race like this now, at the back of the grid as well, it's just the worst timing. This is feeling all too much like the ending of last season, season 4, where we were just struggling and we couldn't get out of this rut. And it feels like it's begun again ever since that failure at Hungary, and I just do not have a good feeling about this. I mean, the race, we will go out as hard as we can. We're going to start on the medium tyre, because I want to be as racy as we can at the end on low fuel. I know how quick we can be with this car on lower fuel right at the end of these races, and Gasly's shown the car has the pace here today to get on pole, so we need to go out there and show that pace in this race and give it our absolute all, and just see where we end up after this one with 4 rounds to go. So here we are then, revving up to 5 5 red lights to the Italian Grand Prix from last place on the grid. Lights are out and we're on the way for 27 laps around Monza. It's a bit of a slow start. Remember, we're on the slower compound compared to most, so taking it easy, trying to pick a line. We can see one on the inside here. We're going to try and duck down the inside of the 2 Williams cars up into P17, but then into turn 1. It all gets a little bit too tight. We're 3 wide. There's 3 wide up ahead with Bottas, Kvyat. The Williams re-overtakes me. Both of them try to freeze. I think Latifi on my inside there, he's got some wing damage. We come back through with ERS to re-overtake De Vries, but very surprised to see the Williams come back at me on traction, but we re-overtake him back up into P17. Not exactly the start I wanted, but it's good enough. It will do. Lap number 2 now. Looking at Matsushita, the Japanese driver in the Alpine car. Down the inside, he goes. So instead of us overtaking him, he goes for the move. We follow him through and kind of do a copycat move on Russell instead on the Alfa Romeo. Bottas now is the car ahead of us in the Alfa Tauri. Can we try and get in the back of him using plenty of ERS off that corner, off that second turn, driving us forward, and we're going to go for a huge dive down the inside, so close to the fin on the left-hand side, but we're going to get the elbows out and wrestle our way through up into P15. That is a much better start. P15 after 2 laps, that'll do. Let's stick with this train. There's a few cars ahead of us, 5 ahead, and actually they're all training pretty much up to that Racing Point car. I believe Carlos Sainz has taken the lead of this Grand Prix. Gasly's in second place, but we've now got Giovinazzi down the inside into Ascari on the outside, and the McLaren getting caught on the very curb that I span out with in Q1. But meanwhile, yes, that's confirmation. Sainz is in the lead of this Grand Prix. Gasly in second now. Sainz got a sizable lead as well, so Sainz looking to maybe streak away, break away from that 1 second toe gap obviously you get with DRS and slipstream around here. Meanwhile, it's all kicking off just ahead of us with the 2 McLarens, the Ferrari of Giovinazzi, the Mercedes as well, and then just behind them Perez, Matsushita and myself as we barrel into lap number 3. DRS is now activated. We're going to try a very late lunge on the Alpine car, catch him napping somewhat, caught up behind the Alfa Tauri, and we're up into P14. Very nice stuff there. And up ahead of us, yellow flags. And is there a car going slow? There is. And everyone's going slow. We're going to gain 3, 4, 5 free position. And it's Gasly. Oh my God. Pierre Gasly's got an issue. I think he might be out of this Grand Prix. He was on pole position. We were last place. And he's out. Gasly's out of the Italian Grand Prix. Oh my God. And we're up into P9 in a flash. We've gained 5 free positions because Gasly, he was retiring and he held up everyone. Gasly, the championship leader, he is out of this Grand Prix. We are P9. Sainz in the driving seat in P1. He's got a great chance of getting a massive lead now in the championship, because remember, he's only 4 points back from Gasly going into this one. So now he goes on to win it. That's huge for him, but it's huge for me to come back at him. But obviously, it doesn't really help that Sainz is still there. So there's still plenty to do in this Grand Prix. But look at this. Gasly with a mechanical issue, and it's that usual thing that AI tries to find a place to park up. But in doing that, he held up everyone. And so ironically, quite funny enough, in the same way that my retirement at Hungary may have triggered a safety car and allowed Gasly to jump Sainz for the win at Hungary, his retirement here has helped me out gain 5 free positions up into P9. We're on lap number 5. We've still got plenty of this race to go. This is on. We could, and up to maybe P3-ish, there's still a chance with everyone in a DRS train and a slipstream fest. So we can still get a very, very strong race result here today. So we find ourselves somehow now in P9, looking around the outside of Ocon because he gets held up so much by Ricciardo. And look at what's going on ahead. It's 3 wide between the 2 Ferraris, I think that is, and one of the Racing Point cars as Ricciardo tries to get in the mix. There's 5 cars battling for the same piece of tarmac, and myself and Ocon are trying to join. Ricciardo now down the inside of Leclerc, who's on the inside of Verstappen. It's all kicking off. This is insane. And we're on the outside of Ocon, up into P8. He was stuck behind Verstappen, and now Verstappen's slow because he got squeezed out by Ricciardo and Leclerc respectively. We've got a good run. Are we going to have the space? We're going to go on the right-hand side. It's a bit of a tricky tricky place to be, a very unorthodox place to make a pass, to be honest, but we're going to finish it off. And again, we've been really good into that right-hander, really wrestling the nose in, and we're up into P7 now. We are making some fantastic progress. Lap number 7, ahead of us, Ricciardo and Leclerc still going on and battling. They're still side by side. Ahead of them, I think it's Lance Stroll trying to catch Giovinazzi, and then second place is Alexander Albon as it stands right now, the other Racing Point car, and then Sainz in the lead in the other Red Bull. But we've got a good run on Leclerc. He's been falling backwards very surprisingly in this Grand Prix, and can we make the pass? He goes through on Ricciardo, but doing that really compromises his line, and Ricciardo gives him a little shove off on the rear end, and that allows us to slip down the inside. So in a flash again, we're in P6 now. We've got yellow flags behind. Is there going to be another issue for someone else, or another atomic? Okay, obviously. That just had to happen, obviously. Lewis Hamilton out of this Grand Prix. Virtual safety cars called out. This race has had everything already, and we're only 9 laps in. We're starting from the back. Gasly, championship leader, out this Grand Prix. Virtual safety car, Hamilton, retirement. Just standard stuff in this career mode now that we're used to, that you guys have been watching for the last 2 seasons. In the lead then, like I said, Sainz from Albon. Then you've got Giovinazzi, Stroll. Then you've got Ricciardo, myself, Leclerc, Verstappen, the 2 McLarens of Norris and Ocon. And then the kind of other teams are not really in the full top 10 fight. But we've got such an exciting order still, and still so long to go. But the only thing is, the Sainz has a very good lead to Albon. I know the Racing Point, though, has been very good in a straight line. So let's see, can Albon or can Stroll get past Giovinazzi? And then can either of those guys chase after the Red Bull? Remember Canada, all race long, Verstappen led. And then the last lap, Stroll took it. That Racing Point is very good in the last laps. Let's see. For us, though, we're just trying to stick with Ricciardo ready as he makes his way through. And now Giovinazzi and Stroll are fighting. And they're fighting so much that they've backed themselves up into us. It happens so often here in Italy, is that you can make overtakes. You know, it's obviously a very quick circuit. But if you fight too much, you'll actually lose way more time than you'll gain just sticking behind cars. So now here we are. Big lunge on the inside of Ricciardo. Punchy overtake. I really enjoyed that one in the cockpit, and we're up into P5. Remember, lap 11, their tyres now, these softs they're all on, they're starting to go off. They're going to come in within a lap or 2, and we're on the mediums, and now here we are. We're in second place, Stroll in P1, and the full course safety car is now out. I was going to say we're now in a position where we could get into the lead and continue this stint, and obviously our tyre would actually be quicker than those worn softs, but now the full course safety car is called out. And that has changed everything for us, because now I'm actually going to pit this lap. There's no point staying out. Even if we could go to lap 16 on the mediums, if there wasn't any safety car, we should come in anyway to get the free pit stop, get onto the soft tyres. So I don't think anyone will jump Sainz. I think Sainz is still good for the race lead. But the difference is, obviously, with the safety car, the full one, we're now all going to bunch up. So now, off the restart, as we have a very good pit stop, and we're actually exited into the middle of Stroll with the ghosting there. Obviously, that was real life. That would have been an absolute calamity crash. But, yeah, obviously, now we're all bunched up. So that advantage is not there, and the Racing Point now has a chance of attacking Sainz. Even I have a... How have we done this? We're in P4. Actually, wait, we're in P4 now. Sainz leads. Albon second, Stroll, and we're in P4 now, lap 14, with still plenty of this race to go. Verstappen, Ricciardo behind me. This has honestly been a bonkers race, and we've still got a while to go. And I'm feeling up for it. We have the fuel. We clearly have some sort of pace in the car. The others fighting around us is helping out, but you got to, you know, obviously work with what you're dealt. And so we're just using the AI on AI fighting to help us out. So we're on the restart, and look at that straight away. Albon on the inside for the race lead. The Racing Point into turn 2. Sainz comes back with the elbow, and they're still neck and neck. Yellow flags behind as more people are tripping over themselves. Giovinazzi up into P6, then the Ferrari, both Ferraris have really slowed up in this race. They look so good in quali, but now they're nowhere. And Sainz is still having to fight that hard, but he's lost out. Albon is in the race lead, and now Sainz may even lose P2 because Stroll has gone for the dive down the inside of Parabolica. Very rare to see the AI really make a big lunge like that, but Stroll's gone for it, and here he goes now. I don't think there's any DRS yet, is there? No, it's not. No DRS quite yet, so it's a pure natural slipstream overtake here, and we've got a double toe on Stroll and Sainz, and we go for the big dive there. Bold move. Really take a lot of curb and turbo on to make sure we're giving them room to make it 3 wide. And we're now into P2 of the Italian Grand Prix. A great overtake on Sainz and Stroll, and one foul swoop as Stroll comes back at us though. We're going to give him the room on the inside. Easy does it. Give him the space to work with, of course. But in the end, we've got the racing line. We've got him covered off, and we're actually into P2. How's this happened then? How has this actually occurred? Because I don't even know, and I've been watching it. And now the really crucial thing is, like I said, is not to fight too much, and we need to break that 1 second gap on lap 20. We have broken it. We are 3 seconds clear. Giovinazzi's now in P3. Sainz has fallen away. We've missed a lot of action, basically, in those 3 laps, but we're in P2 now, and we're starting to close up to Albon. Obviously, Albon without DRS. We don't have DRS, obviously, but we're closing up to him. So now 7 laps to go. We are racing and chasing after the race win, potentially, with the fast lap of the Grand Prix. So as we go on through the laps, Albon's still in the lead. There we are in P2. And the thing is here, Giovinazzi and Stroll, just like they were before the safety car, they're fighting so hard for P3. So they're slowing each other up. So they've got no chance of coming with me and using me as a DRS kind of horse to their carriage. So they're just falling away from us. So we are very much in the driving seat in no man's land. Just go and chase after Albon. And it's all kicking off behind with, I think that's Ricciardo losing some pace, or maybe even Sainz, and Leclerc is coming through, and it's going to be the overtake on the outside of Ascari to get Ricciardo. And you know what? Leclerc looks punchy here. He looks like he wants it. And he goes for the move now on Verstappen. Gets him in a straight line. Very easy. Subsequently, Sainz had already overtaken Verstappen because Sainz was actually originally the next car up ahead of Leclerc. But he overtook Verstappen, and then Verstappen got overtaken by Leclerc as well. But now, Leclerc v Sainz, these two, second and third in the championship. And now, Leclerc ahead of Sainz. And that's going to be crucial for them in terms of Gasly out of this race. So Leclerc is going to gain some more points than he would have done earlier on Gasly, and obviously gain some traction on Sainz as well. And then for P3, Stroll is ahead of Giovinazzi, keeping him at bay now, it would seem. And then here we are, right up behind Albon. And I tell you what, this is what we've done. I've been actually behind Albon within a second since lap 23. We've been sitting back for 3 laps, playing some F1 chess. I know how much you guys love that phrase, F1 chess, because we've waited for the perfect time to overtake Albon on the last lap of the Grand Prix to make sure he can't re-slipstream us on the outside. DRS, the car is absolutely bucketing along into turn 1. It's a slam dunk for anyone. That's just how powerful the DRS is around here with max out cars. Anyone, it's so difficult to defend that. So we get past him, but then crucially, as I've waited on the last lap, we've saved up ERS, but Albon comes back at us though. We've tried to save ERS, but he's back down the inside. We've gone for the early break on the outside through the left hand at the very place where I crashed in Q1 and was out of qualifying. We re-overtake Albon, but look at the toe he's getting. That car is so bloody slippery in a straight line. We defend the position into Parabolica, and I can't quite believe this. From last place on the grid, we're going to come across the line to win the Italian Grand Prix, our second win of this season. And we've won it in a race where our teammate, the championship leader, DNF'd out this Grand Prix. Sainz and Leclerc down the order. What a race.
And with that, we wrap up yet another incredible Grand Prix weekend. So, Anthony, what made the difference out there today?
Without a doubt, the safety car changed everything today. The key to their success was keeping calm and reacting to the situation quickly. We've seen teams in the past throw away wins because they were too hesitant, but here they were decisive, and that's allowed them to take the advantage.
Here comes your top 3 making their way down to the podium for what can only be described as a fantastic day for Formula 1.
I can't quite believe the race we had. I mean, for last to first, let alone then in the same race, Gasly out with a mechanical failure, which is just randomly number generated. And I think I said it when we DNF'd to Hungary. It surely all balances out. And it has, because he won the race, I DNF'd in Hungary. We've won the race, he DNF'd here. Amazing. And then Sainz, he did fall off the cliff a lot in that last stint. P6 only, but he actually takes the lead, the championship though. But look at that. That is amazing. 4 points in it between Sainz and Gasly. And Leclerc on level points, and then only 9 points back from Sainz. There we are in P4. It is with 4 races to go. It's now very much a 4-way title fight, and it's between my current teammate, one of my old teammates from Season 2, and one of my old championship rivals from Seasons 2 and 3. Amazing, and just what a spectacle that race was. I mean, when I saw Gasly retiring, I could not believe it. I could not believe it, but then going on to win... Oh my days. Guys, if you did enjoy that episode, smash that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. 4 races to go. It is well and truly on.